Welcome to a rockstar take on inspiration. And as you can see, I have a tiny bit of inspiration, but I don't have my whole story outlined because otherwise I would not have hesitated. But it's a rockstar take on inspiration. So in a workshop about, I don't know, a week ago or something, I heard that and I didn't ask for references, but maybe I can find something. I can Google something for you. But I heard that there was like a scientific study that showed that creativity came from having like your mind going from high emotions of, you know, love and ecstasy and inspiration to the lower emotions, and that it was that kind of like grinding over your mind, your awareness, your very being, from the highs to the lows, that sparked creativity, that invoked it. And so this obviously means that only having high emotions or only having the low emotions does not spark creativity, but it is the alteration between the two that you need in order to be creative, in order to be fueled to have some kind of creative activity, or to express yourself in a creative way. And so in that sense, you can say that inspiration is the movement from the lower frequencies or thought patterns or emotions to the higher, or it is inspiration is the movement from the higher frequencies to the lower. It's like when you were like, oh, wait a minute, I'm like in this emotional downfall here. I am I am dipping down as we speak. I'm on this roller coaster. It's going down. It's going fast. I'm gonna grab myself a piece of paper and make some art. So if we equalize creativity to inspiration, which I have obviously done for this video, then inspiration is the movement through the layers of your being, from high to low or low to high. Now, it is interesting to know that we live in a society that tries to push the ethos of productivity, and that the ethos of productivity is based on making that line from high to low, from low to high, equal. So we want to be able to do our work. We want to be able to be creative, or not creative, to be productive. Sorry, we want to be able to be productive. That is kind of like expected of us, that we keep ourselves in a way so that we are productive in whatever it is that we need to do, so that we, you know, get our shit together, have our shit together, so that we can produce. So we want to avoid the lows. That's kind of like the ethos. You look, when you have a depression, or when you have like a mental collapse, or you like completely break down, it, you know, there's this whole energy or vibe surrounding this with, okay, this is really bad, but how do we get you back up? So part of that is cultural. Part of that is because not being productive equals not so much kind of like social exclusion, or although there's definitely a cultural element in that, but also just survival. Like we live in a very complicated society, and the moment you are no longer productive, that's kind of like the deer limping in the herd. Like, like this is not going right. And there's different levels of social security all around the world, and it definitely depends on where you are. But just generally speaking, not being productive is a life-threatening situation. So we, as a society, we want to avoid people, and that the first one is ourselves, to drop that low that they can no longer be productive. But we also want to kind of like uh, um, limit the higher emotions that people have. Um, Especially here in the Netherlands, we have like a saying, just act normal. That is already crazy enough, and I'm sure that they will have other sayings around the world, maybe from a little bit different angle. Like, I can imagine that here we have like kind of like a um, this culture where you really, like, you have to be normal. We don't have a competitive culture of uh, um, rewarding people that are ambitious and that want to excel and want to be the best at what they do. And you can already see it with our school system, where the grades are all counted objectively and not subjectively. So in other words, in theory, you could have a whole class, everybody getting a 10 on their score if they're all perfect. So we don't grade students against each other, and we don't pit them against each other in that fashion. So we have like this whole culture of keeping things equal and of staying normal. We have a whole culture based on normalcy. So our saying about avoiding the highest registers, I think, would be just act normal. That's already crazy enough. So there's in avoiding the highest emotions, it is definitely more a cultural thing than the avoidance of the lower, like the avoidance of the lower emotions. That's definitely kind of like a matter of life and death. And emotions of the higher, like repressing the higher emotions from a cultural perspective, that will definitely have a bigger dependence on where it is you live. But I'm kind of like going with the idea that most of us will have cultures where these higher emotions are either repressed, like in the Netherlands, or they have very specific outlets when you're allowed to feel and channel these higher emotions. Like in the Netherlands, we have carnival. So in 2 weeks' time or something, we have like I think about a third of the country, to the lowest part of the country, the most southern part, um, the bottom third of the country, closest to Belgium, has carnival. So for a couple of days, they have a lot of drinking, and they have parades and parties, like all night long, day after day after day after day, all the way until Ash Wednesday, which is Wednesday the 5th of March this year. I'm filming this in 2025. So here in the Netherlands, that is our outlet. But every culture, every city, uh, um, um, every religion has their own outlet where it's allowed to have these higher emotions. And as I said, this is only the outlet of the southern part of the Netherlands. If I would go for the whole of the Netherlands. I wouldn't. I think maybe King's Day, the 30th of not the 30th, 27th of April, could be one of them, like a national holiday that you really see, like, okay, that's where we are allowed to experience that, those higher emotions. But like I said, every country, every culture really will have their thing. Soccer here in the Netherlands, that's like the most popular sport, where we really have that, kind of like permission to go with the emotions that including the highest emotions that that we share with our team, or the team that we are rooting for. So so that's kind of like the idea that in order to have a productive society, we have to weed out the lowest emotions, and we have to control and regulate the highest. And I think so whenever you feel like I'm not inspired, or why did I used to be so inspired, or why did I write so much or create so much, like, a gazillion years ago? In case you have not identified yet what kind of time period that was, or in case you have not identified, like, why you're not very creative or not inspired right now. Maybe you have not thought about that. Maybe you have registered, I'm not very inspired. If I compare my my inspiration, my creativity, my the number of things I create or make, or the number of areas in my life where I really have this active involvement of expression, and of really kind of like really digging in and making it my own. Why don't I have those areas in this time of my life? I can feel kind of like flat. I can feel like I'm really missing out on something very important. Well, the first thing is, look back into your life. Do you have a time where you were very much creative and you were very much inspired? And can you see the circumstances that created that? And versus maybe you're very stable right now. Maybe you really have yourself either you can be stuck in the lowest vibrations, in the lowest level of survival and of worry and of fear, and then of course it's very logic that you don't have this spark, because you're stuck there, so you're no longer on that roller coaster through your emotions. So maybe you're stuck there, but also that's kind of like the obvious, like if you're really stuck in these lower registers of our humanness, then you've probably figured it out. But it is also very much possible that you have not figured it out, because you're actually in the middle. You're stable. You're, according to all the laws of the world, okay, and even doing fine and doing great, and having it all together, having your shit together. And that's really harder to acknowledge. Like I'm not going to say who said this, but I know someone who really said, like, for a poet, I'm kind of short on my emotions, or I'm kind of like, I could use with more emotions to create better poetry, or if I haven't had more emotions, I would be a better artist, basically. And at the time, I didn't really understand what he meant. Even though I could see that it was serious, or well, not serious, not that serious, but you know what I mean. But now I do. I understand it. Like, you really need the highs. You need the kind of like the irresponsible highs in order to kind of like grind over that track all the way down and then back up. So that's the story about inspiration, a rock star take on this subject. And usually I take like a subject from the video and announce it as being the next one. And so productivity would really be the next one. But I think that's just I feel like I don't know enough about this subject, or that I would really be saying the exact same things I just said. So productivity is obviously not an option, because like I don't want to be repeating myself here. So yeah, let's do legacy. Like completely new completely new topic. Let's do legacy. What is your legacy? What is there to say about that from a rock star point of view? So I'll see you then in the next video about legacy. See you there. Bye.